Yo people, welcome back to the YouTube channel. You already know what time it is. It's time for another video. There's another circulation, amalgamation of news out there in the world that we need to discuss and digest and dissect. So we're going to get straight into it. Big up your damn selves in the building as always, and make sure you smash up the likes if you haven't already. Now, you already know who I'm starting with, and it is Nicholas Jackson from Villarreal, the young striker who really has just burst onto the scene like Michael Richards this latter part of the season, second half of the season, because of course replacing Gerard Moreno, the striker, Spanish striker, and then second half of the season he's got his 16 starts, 12 goals, and a lovely array of other attributes to discuss and dissect in this video. So there isn't a massive sample size with him, first of all. Now, here's another young striker, and we're going to talk about that, kind of profile in just a second, but there isn't a massive sample size. So this is a scouted striker, a striker that was scouted by Bournemouth and many other clubs as well. Seems like his move to Bournemouth failed in January due to a medical, but it doesn't seem to be massively injury prone from what I can see. A hip injury kept him out for a decent chunk of the season. This season, 10 games he missed for Villarreal. However, I don't think it's something that we can be too worried about, or at least I don't have enough information to be too worried about his fitness levels at the moment. But more importantly, just not a lot of sample size in terms of, like I said, 16 games in La Liga this season, 12 goals, fantastic conversion rate. In fact, the best conversion rate in the league this season. But last season, he's playing in the third division in Spain out on loan. So, like I said, this is a scouted striker. It's the scouts doing their due diligence, them looking out there for a player on a cut price, apparently available for 35 million, kind of in a release clause potentially. And yeah, for us, it's one of those deals that you can get done. And I have been kind of screaming out for a striker that isn't one of the big 100 million pound buys. So I could never be a hypocrite here and say that I'm annoyed that we're looking at a player like this, because I do want us to be a little bit more, a little bit more sneaky and sly with a striker position that we have failed in many a time, year after year after year. We go for these big name players, we go for these big signings, or we go for these stopgaps. And that's all on the market at the moment. It's either your Vlahovic's or your Victor Osimhen's or whoever it may be for a very large price and a lot of pressure. But pressure comes expectation. And of course, we need our striker to hit 20 goals. Minimum really is the aim and the target. And then you have your stopgaps, your older strikers that are coming towards the end of their career. Your Aubameyangs that we've gone for, Falcao's over the years that have all failed, Higuain. And I really would like to stay clear of that. Most of the time as well, those older players cannot put in the hard yards in terms of putting pressure and pressing from the front, which is what most modern day attack-minded coaches want from their forwards. So we got to kind of get away from those targets. So it does point towards more of this type of profile, which is, there is a risk. Make no mistake, there is a risk. I've seen some of the comps, as I'm sure you have. I've gone through some of the statistics, the attributes, the data. And again, there is promise, there is potential, but it is just that. There is not this guaranteed world-class level of ability that we're getting here, and that there's no guarantee of how many goals we're getting here, despite the expectation. Now, the first question that a lot of people are asking, that a lot of people are worried about, is why are we going for a young 21-year-old when we've already got Armando Broja and Datro Fofana that are also of this age range and of this age group? I have to hear and understand and completely agree with those concerns, because stockpiling, right? And this is kind of leading on to what I've said over the last couple of months with Datro in particular. It doesn't feel like a player that we've signed to really get to, the first team at Chelsea and really give him a real role. It does feel like a player that we kind of just saw as an opportunity, had some talent in the Norwegian leagues, want to ingrain him and involve him in the multi-club model to kind of push through into a first team in Europe and then sell for a profit later on. Doesn't really feel like a striker that we have a clear plan for, that we have a plan to really promote and use. And this season we saw that in a way, because dead rubber games and he still didn't get game time. He was basically just frozen out of the squad and barely even got on the pitch. If he had any real kind of hopes and ambitions to be in this team, you would assume that he'd be getting in some of our teams where we are not scoring goals. We are not putting the ball in the back of the net. He is a striker. At least give him opportunity. That was clearly not on the mandate. That was not a demand. That was not a request of the board. Otherwise, it would have happened. So that only tells me that, yeah, most likely just going to be involved in the multi-club model. Didn't cost a lot. So politically, how it goes with expensive signings on big wages, they always get pushed to the front of the queue because owners want return on the investment they've made. Datro Fofana is not a player of that kind of, ilk. Didn't cost a lot, low wages, probably going to get pushed to the wayside. Not saying it's fair, really isn't fair at all. And I don't like this part of our club, but it is what we're most likely going to do with him. And in terms of Broja's case, he has Premier League experience with Southampton. He did look promising, in my opinion, in some games, away to Brentford, scored at home to Wolves, but he's coming back from an ACL and he's going to be part of the squad, I'm sure. Seems like reportedly Pochettino does like him, but that is all he's going to be as part of the squad. He's not going to be an instant starter. Shouldn't be anyway. If we want to be, getting guaranteed kind of output from anyone up front, we do need to go with someone fresh, someone new. Obviously, make the sales we need to make. But Nicholas Jackson is kind of a player that, from what I've watched, which is same as you guys, let's be honest, we've all just gone and watched some comps. We've gone and done our little data checks and we're bringing it all together to kind of get opinions and, rough guidelines of what we're looking at here. But no one knows this player like the back of their hand, unless you're maybe a Villarreal fan or you've been watching La Liga consistently in the second half of the season. Now, what I can see from him is obviously, first of all, not tried and tested at the elite level of European football. Of course, he's been playing Conference League. But he has got very good conversion rate, very good goal output when he's been given the opportunity this season in the second half of the season. And 12 goals in 16 starts screams that 1,600 minutes. It's a very good return. And not only that, he's not a player that's just hanging around in the penalty box looking for service, which is something that I've been really pushing to kind of avoid and walk away from in recent times after what happened with Lukaku especially. And obviously Timo Werner, who, like I said, just was not very multifaceted, wasn't very dimensional, very one-dimensional, if anything, running in behind constantly, but couldn't drop deep and hold up the ball. Now, this player has shown signs, and the system that they play at Villarreal, which is the 4-3-3, and you know how that lone striker tends to be in a 4-3-3, you do kind of need to drop and you do need to hold up the ball and connect that midfield to the attack with your wingers. They've obviously got two really talented wingers on either side, but they do rely on him to drop deep and build up and hold up the ball a little bit and interlink. Now, there are weaknesses in this guy's game that I've seen on multiple reports, scouting reports, and also just a little bit on some comps, but that would be his aerial ability. Doesn't seem like as if he's fantastic in the air, just two-headed goals. That's something that I saw with Tammy Abraham as well. And there are shades of his game that did remind me a bit of Tammy when I was watching him in highlight reels. It does remind me of Tammy a little bit. There can be good footwork. I think a lot of people underestimate Tammy Abraham also sometimes can have very good footwork. He's shown little bits of skill to get himself out of tight situations. So that's where the reminders kind of come from. I think maybe Jackson is maybe more explosive, you could say. Definitely when he stands people up 1v1 and he does, like to take people on in those wide channels. He will drift out wide, which is good. He does like to stretch defensive lines. He's not just going to stay in the center of the pitch. He does take people on, but I do think from a dribbling aspect, I wouldn't say he's obviously a winger. I wouldn't say he's a fantastic, brilliant 1v1 demon dribbler. He is using explosive pace to get beyond his defenders, which is not a problem, but it's just very important to highlight. He ain't no Eden Hazard. So listen, it's created 7 big chances. 22 chances created, successful take-ons as well, 23. These are good numbers from a player that you don't want to just see relying on service and can't bring anything to the team. I think I'm a little bit hesitant on hold-up play at the moment, purely because La Liga is not as physical as the Premier League. It'll be interesting to see if he can hold up the ball at the G-Tech Community Stadium against Brentford. It'll be interesting to see if he can hold up the ball, against some of these bigger, more physically imposing centre-backs in the Premier League, which Kai Havertz and Werner definitely came in and said, wow, these guys are a lot stronger and a lot bigger than we expected. Those quotes were clear. Now, those two were never holding up the ball really to the level maybe that Jackson is, but even still, he's a young striker. I'm not going to place too much expectation on physical combat right now, even though he stands at 6'1". So despite being tall, heading ability definitely needs work on. Balance as well, people are saying in a lot of reports, needs work on as well. Very similar to Tammy Abraham in that aspect as well. Balance was a big problem for him at Chelsea. He had a massive frame, but was kind of dangling legs, just dangly, just couldn't really control his own body. And I think that was something that I saw with Broja when he came to Chelsea and showed little glimpses here and there in a couple of games that he had a lot more control over his body. He was a lot better, just not falling over constantly to the ground and slipping and sliding. He was just a lot more structurally well put together. He could kind of understand his frame better, and he was just better in that aspect for me. But like I said, yeah, these are things. There's going to be things for him to improve on. He's not going to come in and start switching play. He's not, per game giving you a high volume of switches or long balls or Harry Kane vibes or anything like that. He is a striker, clearly, like the Vlahoviches and the Højlunds and all these guys as well, wouldn't be doing that. So he does look like he's got aspects to his game that, you know, are not just goal, 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 service, 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 but there is a risk, and you have to worry about stockpiling in every single position, which I've spoken about before, even with midfield. I hope that we do see at some point an end to signing players under the age of 23, because all you're going to do is basically put your other players that were under 23 to the wayside, and it's a waste of money then. The investment and the potential only comes through if you actually give them opportunities, and you can only give so many young players opportunities at once. You cannot ever have an environment of young player going up against young player going up against young player for the same position. I've spoken about this many times on the channel before. Your Reece James worked out brilliantly because of the Aspilicuetas. Your Tammy Abraham's got their opportunities because of your Giroud's. Your Jesus has got their opportunities because of your Aguero's. Your David Silvas gave those opportunities to the Fodens because of tired legs, because of endurance and being able to bring on fresher, younger legs, and also help them experience-wise in training, leadership. All these things, intangibles that are important for young players to develop. It's not just about just buying them all and expecting them to flourish. Brighton have integrated. We have yet to do that with some of our own young players like Carney. So we'll see. But like I said, in the market, there's not exactly an incredible array of strikers out there. So I'm not angry about it. But like I said, there is an error on the side of caution with your expectations of what kind of output are you expecting from someone in only their second season. It would be really in the top level. And he's not even had a full season in La Liga. He's only had, like I said, only just had that second half of the season. We're basically going in early, like a mid-table team would. So you're going in early, taking a risk, taking a gamble, getting ahead of the queue before big clubs do. Will it pay off? Who is to see? We shall see. But we don't know too much at the moment on that one. So that's the situation. And let's move on to Kai Havertz, because Kai Havertz has been linked with Arsenal as well today. Obviously, you know, the Real Madrid door is closed. Bayern Munich, little links there, as always. Would Thomas Tuchel want to, you know, pair up with him once again? They are looking for a striker. It's quite clear Havertz is not a striker, despite the fact that he has played there for us over the last couple of years due to, you know, Aubameyang, you know, fallout, potentially, you know, not making Champions League squads, and obviously Lukaku fallout with the interview, etc. Havertz has kind of been forced to play up front, even though he's traditionally not a striker, even though in lockdown for Leverkusen he would have played there as well. For me at Arsenal, how is he going to go into that team? Where is he going to play? I look at the Odegaard position, but Odegaard is playing the Odegaard position, and Odegaard is better than Kai Havertz right now. And he's probably going to be better than him, just period, in terms of chance creation, in terms of division for a pass. In this league, at least, he's had a fantastic season in terms of his goal scoring as well. There just isn't a strong claim to say that Havertz can kick the captain out of his own position anytime soon. So he's going in potentially as depth. Now, price tag wise, same situation as Real Madrid. I think actually, if you're going to Arsenal, probably could say that you're commanding even more money. Definitely not going to get a discount. So that stalemate is there. If Arsenal think they're going to get a cheap deal out of us, go and look at Real Madrid. We priced them out of the move. They didn't want to go to the fee that we're looking for. We're obviously trying to put together quite a serious amount of money into the bank from a Mason Mount sale, and obviously Kai Havertz. Kai Havertz has longer left on his contract, but has not had any successful season or campaign since he's been with us. And Mason Mount has had a couple of successful campaigns, but has only got 1 year left on his contract. Who do you command more money from? Listen, it can go either way, but Arsenal are not going to get a discount, and you can assure yourselves as a London rival, you're going to have to pay, especially as a Premier League rival as well. You're going to be going up directly against us. And like I said, his contract is not running out at next summer. For me personally, that's the role that I see him going into. I don't see him play on the left in the Xhaka role. I don't think he's as effective playing in the left half space in an attacking 8 position. Personally, that's just not where I think Kai Havertz was destined to play. I think it was in the right of the midfield. If you're going to play him in that right 10, attacking 8 role, if you want to put him in that area, that is where he'll be cutting on his left foot, open up the pitch and taking those shots and combining 1-2s, etc. Maybe Arteta's got another plan. Would I feel comfortable selling to Arsenal? No, I never feel comfortable really selling to Arsenal. Even the Jorginho deal, I would have preferred him to go to Italy, of course. But his contract was running out literally this year, and we decided that we're going for Enzo. And I think Enzo is a long-term, better kind of acquisition than, saying we're not going to get Enzo and we're going to keep Jorginho, who's expiring anyway. So you take the small-term hit, short-term hit, take the long-term gain. Looks like they're even potentially looking to sell Jorginho, and he's only just arrived. I've seen links to Italy again. So that was easier and calmer to stomach because it was a short-term pain. This is more long-term. If Havertz actually was to do extremely well under Arteta, we'd have to see that in our faces for the next decade. So for me personally, it's a strange one because if they're going after Caicedo, why are they going after Havertz as well? Obviously, two different players, two different positions, but in terms of midfield three that you play, they're both taking up a spot in that team. Are you going to go and get three midfielders now with Rice, Caicedo, and then go and add a Havertz who would be playing an Odegaard? And we know Odegaard's not really playing as a 10; he's playing as an attacking 8, playing as a wide 8, a right-sided 8, and a midfield 3. So Caicedo maybe is more of a Ben White backup if you want to play him as an inverted right back, tucking into midfield next to a Rice, and that forms your double pivot in a build-up of a 3-2. You take out Zinchenko and you put in a normal left back that overlaps, and you basically flip the team to what it was last season. Instead of tucking in your left back, you're tucking in your right back, which would be Caicedo. Saw him last season playing in that position, swapping with Pascal Gross. There's a lot going on. I'm just trying to summarize it as quickly as can be, but if we sell them Kai Havertz and that means we get Caicedo, then fair enough. Because maybe it means that Arsenal don't go for both. If we sell them if they want Havertz badly enough, which again, it's been reported by Jacob Steinberg. I don't want to get ahead of myself. I want to see more reports. I think Matt Law may have come out with it as well. So maybe it is starting to pick up some momentum. If Kai Havertz is a player that they're going for, and it's not an alternative to Caicedo because they're nothing alike, but if they are going for Kai Havertz and Declan Rice, and that means we're definitely then going to get Caicedo because now Arsenal are out of the race and we can really push for that deal and hopefully Man United don't come in, then I would take Caicedo coming in and Kai Havertz leaving because that improves a weakness in our team. That balances out a midfield that's imbalanced. For me, we get the better player based on performance in Premier League. And also on top of that, we do get some money for Kai and we definitely get Caicedo. I'd rather have Caicedo and let Kai go to Arsenal than we keep Kai at Chelsea and Caicedo goes to Arsenal. I think if Arsenal get Caicedo and Rice, we got a lot of development to do in midfield because that's the only way we're catching them is by doing some sort of Harry Kane-esque Pochettino development plan because they've then picked up 2 potential world-class midfielders for the next decade. So if that is the case, then let me know what you think in the comments down below. But it's a strange one. I'm not going to lie to you. It is a strange one. And we'll see where it goes. But they could be linked in some capacity. If they go for both, for me, if you're Chelsea and you're smart, you have to say, listen, if you're going for Kai, then you got to leave Caicedo. Do you know what I mean? Don't think you're going for both because we're sharing targets here. We can't let them let them take our player and then go and take our target. That would be wild. So I hope there's some thinking going on here. But listen, that is what's going on currently. We're still saying that we're going to match whatever Arsenal put on the table for Caicedo. We still need to sell players before we actually go officially, it seems, for Caicedo because we have too many midfielders. And of course, we're still looking at that Inter Milan meeting. There are rumours and murmurs that Koulibaly, they're looking at a loan deal into Milan. Personally, a loan deal will not run unless there's an obligation to buy next summer, which I know Inter Milan are not going to do because they love to penny pinch and they don't have the capacity and the facilities and the finances. So then fuck off. Do you know what I'm saying? If you don't have the bread, then get out the bakery, bruv, because I need sales. I need money, cold, hard cash. And they're talking about loan deal with no obligation. What does that do for us? You're not developing the player because they're 30-something years of age. So, and they're on high wages that you probably won't pay the 100% of either. So it's a sale or nothing. If he's not sold to Inter Milan for a fee or he's not involved in a player swap for Onana to bring that fee down, then off to Saudi you go, sir. And Lukaku, we're in talks. We'll see what happens on that. Smash up the likes, guys. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Big up your damn selves. In a bit, people. Peace.